So after Sonic Advance 3 came out, there wasn't any Sonic games until over a year later in November 15th, 2005, where there were 2 Sonic games that came out. There was this, and Shadow the Hedgehog, which I won't be covering. And this shows a pretty stark contrast between Dimps and Sonic Team at the time, because the game that Dimps released was really good, at least when you know what to do. And Shadow the Hedgehog was infamous. The biggest change to the formula here is the boost. This is the first game in the entire franchise to introduce the boost, and it became a very important part of 3D Sonic gameplay, starting with Unleashed. It's amazing that it took that long for them to finally get the idea, you know, maybe we should apply this to a 3D Sonic game. But unfortunately, getting the boost isn't as simple as it is in the 3D games. You need to constantly mash the B button after hitting springs and getting launched off ramps in order to do tricks. And by doing tricks, that's how you fill up the boost meter. And the trick system was changed completely from the advanced games to this one. Something that really threw me off when I first played the game, and I had to actually look up a guide in order to find out how I was supposed to avoid having my boost constantly run out. Why did they put that wall there? It's like they don't account for you boosting up there at all. But anyways, you hit a ramp or a spring or trampoline, and you just mash the B button, and eventually when you're close to landing on the ground or something, what you do is that you press R and up, so that you do the upward air trick, and so you'll prolong the amount of time that you'll be in the air. So you go BBB constantly, and then you go up and R, and then just press the A button at the end to do a combo finisher, which gives you a lot more boost energy from finishing the combo and giving you a lot of points. And you need to do that in order to make sure that you keep having boost. So basically the game turns into a button masher for the most part, where you're mostly focused on doing tricks to keep your boost. And because of that, I don't really get thrills from this game because I'm so focused on mashing the buttons to keep my boost up that I don't really notice how fast I'm going. That's the biggest problem I have with this game. Well, not the biggest problem. But yeah, these are the special stages, and you control Sonic with the stylus here, which is awesome because it means he goes exactly where you want him to go. For the most part, even though this is the first DS Sonic game, this isn't really that much about the touchscreen controls, which is fantastic. I heard a rumor, and I'm not sure if this is true or not, but they originally had a demo for Sonic Rush, which people nicknamed Pat Sonic's Ass Game, because basically you would pat Sonic's ass with the stylus, and that was how you would make him go faster. It was basically Sonic and the Secret Rings, the DS game. Oh, I think the reason that I missed that there was because it took longer for me to react to the fact that the number 2 was on Sonic, and so it kind of blended in with him. And because of that, I didn't have enough reaction time to hit all of the numbers. But you hit all the numbers, and you get a lot more numbers. You get a lot more rings. This is easily one of the best special stages that I've ever played. At least in theory. Because in practice, later on in the game, the special stages get really dickish because they have so many mines and stuff. So it doesn't really account for the fact that you're controlling Sonic with the stylus and can't jump at all. I'm gonna get into that more later. But yeah, this is actually the best level in the game in my opinion. Because when I first played this game, I didn't have a very good time because when I first played this game, the level gimmicks constantly threw me into bottomless pits because it wasn't always intuitive how I was supposed to handle them, and some of them were too easy to get me hurt. So I had a pretty frustrating time with this game in my first playthrough, and it wasn't until I got to Blaze's story, and you'll see Blaze later, that I finally started to like the game. And I don't think that's good. I don't think a game is well designed when you only like it after you've played it for quite a while and have gotten used to the level. Act 2 is annoying in a sense because if you don't stay on that upper route there, if you fall down the lower route, then you'll fall into a bottomless pit, guaranteed, because you'll be in a lower route that's really slow and awkward and boring, and you might as well just rage quit right then and there. That's a minor nitpick. Another minor nitpick is that when you fall into the item balloons, well, not only can you not tell what item they're gonna get you when you fall into them, which is stupid, the item box has never had that problem, but when you fall into them, you stop doing tricks. Why? That kind of discourages you from falling into them. And like, you might want to fall into them because falling into them... Oh yeah, here's something... Like, there's no alternate route here to get past progressing through a level that way, so if you fail to make it onto that grind rail, then you'll have to backtrack and get back to where you were. Like, that's another problem I have with this game, is that there's not nearly enough alternate routes. So if you have a part of the level that's really tricky and annoying because of the gimmick of the bottomless pits, then you're not going to be able to skip it by taking an alternate route like in the classic Sonic games, or even the advanced games. So I don't think there was enough alternate routes in this game. And you know, in Advanced 2, a lot of people complain about all the bottomless pits, but at least in that game, you only had that as a problem if you were in the lower route. If you stayed on the higher route, which is pretty easy to do, then you were fine. But yeah, there's a lot of things that have been changed for this game. I hate that part, because even if you're boosting, it still takes way too long to get up there. It just feels like it's padding and wasting my time, like you're not moving nearly fast enough. I don't think you need to boost in order to prevent yourself from being crushed by that thing, which is good. It's just an action set piece, and that's all. But yeah, there's a lot of things that this game changed. Like, you can do tricks on rails now, which I found really unintuitive when I first played the game, and I didn't really know that you could do it until I looked up a guide. When you're on a rail, you have to mash the R button in order to keep doing tricks, and you can only do a certain amount of tricks on the rail until you stop, and you aren't able to do tricks anymore. Which is kind of lame because, theoretically, as long as you keep staying in the air after hitting a spring, you can stay doing tricks forever. And another thing really annoying about doing tricks on rails is that you'll constantly... Like, the R button is the homing attack for some reason, which I found very unintuitive when I first played the game. So, what you can do is that you can accidentally homing attack to your death because there is an enemy nearby. And so you're trying to do tricks on a rail, but you press the R button and an enemy happened to be there. I don't think you should be able to do a homing attack unless you're jumping. But anyways, obviously I'm playing this game on easy, and that's because this boss fight, and all of the boss fights in fact, pad themselves out a ridiculous extent. Easy mode just reduces the amount of health that an enemy, that a boss has, from 8 to 6. Like, what? The problem with these bosses is that they drag themselves out to a ridiculous extent because you can't always attack them. You have to wait for your opportunity to attack. And if you aren't close enough, like, if you're at a certain part of the arena when that barrel rolls towards you, you're guaranteed to die because no matter how high you jump, you aren't going to be able to make it so that you jump over it. And so you'll be sent to your death. That happened to me the first time I played the boss, and I was like, why did they have an insta-kill move for the first boss in the game? Like, I don't think that's very good design. I don't think it's a well-designed Sonic boss that takes over a minute to beat. And I mean, I like this part. This is cool. I like how they show you different camera angles when you jump into a boss for the final hit. And it makes it look really epic. But that's about the only thing good about the boss fights. So this is Blaziken appearing in a fiery blaze of glory, holding a soul emerald. This creates a continuity error because she doesn't say that in Blaze's story. In fact, in Blaze's story, she never even notices Sonic at all. So it kind of comes off as, like, Sonic's story is told from his perspective, like, only in Sonic's story do you hear his inner thoughts in his dialogue boxes. So it kind of comes off as Sonic is shilling himself by making Blaze thank him for defeating the boss. It's really confusing because Well, I guess if you assume that Blaze's story starts out before Sonic's story, then that means that Blaze and Sonic went through Leaf Storm at the exact same time, fought identical bosses. So, Blaze beat her own version of the same boss, and so she would get the Soul Emerald from that. So why is she thanking Sonic for beating a boss fight that like, he was fighting a different boss from her? But anyways, this is a map screen. This should remind you of Super Mario World, which isn't really something that should be in a Sonic game. I do like how it's easy to tell where the zones all are in relation to each other. And the overworld doesn't really retcon what Sonic Adventure established like Sonic Battle did. And I also like how the map screen shows you on the top screen how many lives you have in double digits, which is something that this game doesn't do. You can have over 9 lives, and you won't be able to tell when you're actually playing the game. But yeah, like, I like the map screen. Although it's annoying how they say Zone 1 and Zone 2, and aside from the graphics with the zone titles on it, you can't tell what it is. I have no idea I was supposed to get that as Sonic. And you can't get that as Blaze because when you're playing as Blaze, the special stage rings don't show up. Oh, those things! You will learn to hate them. You're going to learn to hate them on your first playthrough. And even now, I still despise them. But anyways, like, Tails is at the top screen and the map screen, and you kind of need him as your navigator because they don't tell you what the actual name of the zones are until you look at the top screen and Tails tells you. Because it's just Zone 1, Zone 2. But anyways, this is Water Palace, and wonderful. Like I see, this game still has the problem where you go into a spring and it sends you back towards a rail or upper area or whatever. And because you're no longer holding that direction, you start slowing down because you're holding right to go right, but now all of a sudden you're going left, and so you have to hold left. But yeah, this is Water Palace, and a lot of people think that this is the best level in the game. I heavily disagree with that because I don't think it's a well-designed level that... I mean, look at this. This gimmick, you are going to learn to hate it in Act 2. Right below here, bottomless pits. And these platforms fall so quickly when you land on them. They're gonna get a lot worse in Act 2 though. But yeah, like, one of the things that I don't like about this level is that there's so little bubbles everywhere. Where are the bubbles? At least in Labyrinth Zone, you were guaranteed to not drown as long as you always stopped every time you found a bubble. In this level, I think the idea is that you're supposed to constantly be rushing through the water in order to get out as fast as you can before you drown. And that's why there aren't many bubbles anywhere. But the problem is that the only way you're going to get out of the water areas really quickly is if you've already played them before. Otherwise, it's just kind of luck-based. Sonic still feels like he moves fast even when he's not boosting. I wish that water spout was at the left wall that I just ran into, instead of having to go back to get it. Because it's easy to run past it, and then the water spouts out, and you're too late. I always hated those platforms that you land on them, and they sort of rock back and forth. And it's kind of awkward being on them. Like, you can get flung off them pretty easily. And another problem I have is that sometimes when you're on rails, it can be hard to tell that you're on rails at first because, well, you're constantly covered with a blue light when you're boosting as Sonic. And you're constantly covered by fire when you're boosting as Blaze. So it can be hard to tell at first that you're actually on a grind rail. And so sometimes you won't start doing tricks on the rails. So, and that combined with the fact that you can homing attack off them by accident is why I don't really like to... I don't like to do rail tricks that much. And I also don't like how, while the checkpoints give you boost energy, and that's fantastic and all, I don't like how the checkpoints don't look like checkpoints. They look like the red rings from Sonic Generations. I don't see why they have to. And another thing is, in Advance 2 and 3, you would soar over a checkpoint, but you'd still get it hit. You'd still get it activated. In this game, you're constantly running fast, but you still don't have the checkpoints automatically activate. You have to go back. God damn it. That timer clearly hadn't run out, but it still exploded on me and got me hit. Like, they should have the timer be different if it's misleading. This is the worst part of the whole entire level. Bottomless pits are all beneath this. And because of the horizontal screen crunch, it's kind of hard to tell when exactly you have to jump over to the next platform. And when you're first playing the game, you aren't even going to know that you're expected to jump onto a moving platform at all. That you might not even know when the moving platform is going to show up. If you jump on an enemy, you'll uncurl, but weirdly enough, you'll still land on it and hit it. So that's kind of weird, because for most of the game, I assumed that when you jumped on an enemy and you uncurled, that actually meant something. So, like, you're gonna see why that's such a huge problem later for first-time player. But right now, it's not so bad. It's just really weird that Sonic looks like he's uncurled when he can still land on the enemies and kill them. One of the biggest, most prominent changes to the controls in Sonic Rush is that as soon as you hold right, you go right. And you don't go right when you're not holding right. There's a lot less momentum, which a lot of classic Sonic fans complain about a lot. Because in the classic Sonic games, it was all about how you would take advantage of the level design and do certain things in the level in order to earn your speed. Whereas in this game, well, you're still earning your speed because you're constantly doing tricks in order to build up your boost meter. But they still see it as, you just press the button and you get instant gratification. Although, since they're so constantly focused on doing tricks, again, I don't feel like I'm getting thrills from the game because I'm so focused on doing tricks. I don't like it when they expect you to tap 5 times because, again, it takes so long for me to hit every single number. Especially when I'm doing it on an emulator, because obviously I recorded this off an emulator because that's the only way that I can record DS games. Like, in order to get a Capture 3DS, you have to send your 3DS to another country. And screw that. And that meant that I wasn't able to beat all these special stages because it's kind of awkward trying to do this with a mouse. Speaking of awkward, you have to tap these things to homie attack them. Yeah, that's a little error there. See what I mean about recording it off an emulator? There's really nothing I could do about that. But anyways, I don't know why they decided to put enemies in the special stages. Why did they think that was a good idea? Like, it's so awkward. Like, you can't just jump into them. Another thing that you can jump off the sides of the half pipes. It's just like in the Saturn version of the 3D Blast special stages. And sometimes you have to jump off them in a very precise way. You have to jump off them so that you land on either 5 rings or like the trick balloons. And so I feel like it can be too precise of a challenge sometimes. And sometimes it's easy to get cheated out of rings. But these generally are some of the most fun special stages I've ever played. Like, I would say these are, if it weren't for the fact that the later ones tend to have bombs and mines in places where it really doesn't account for the fact that you're controlling him with a stylus and can't jump. If it weren't for the later special stages being awful, I'd say that this is the best special stage in Sonic history. Like, it doesn't feel like it requires trial and error memorization in order to get all the rings because they pop up really quickly. Because you're moving slowly in these things. Like, you're not moving too fast, and there's a really good draw distance, so it's pretty easy to get the rings. The real problem is avoiding the mines and making sure that you do the tricks right to get rings in the air. So, You know how in Sonic games in general, especially in Sonic Adventure, like you would hold down the A button, and the amount of time that you held it down would cause you to go up higher for a longer amount of time. Well, this game exaggerates that to hell and back, because if you just tap the A button or the B button, because there's 2 jump buttons for some reason, then you'll barely jump at all, which is really awkward for me to get used to. And another thing that was awkward for me to get used to was that you have to let go of the control pad entirely in order to land exactly where you were below you. Because if you don't let go of the control pad midair, then you're guaranteed to overshoot the platforms. And those platforms lead to a bottomless pit. I remember dying to that the first time I played this level, because like the platforms fall so fast, and because of the horizontal screen crunch, I didn't know when another platform was showing up. Like, I didn't like that level at all when I first played it. It is fun now that I know what to do though. But it's definitely not the best level in the game, so I don't know why it was introduced. I don't know why it was the representative level in Sonic Generation 3DS. Because Leaf Storm is the only level in the game that I loved when I first played it. You know? But anyways, that was the introduction of Eggman Nega. I hate that name. Like, it's one mispronunciation away from a racial slur. He's actually a pretty cool recolor, to be honest. I mean, I love his design, and like a lot of people don't like Eggman Nega because he comes off as Eggman with all the charm and likability sucked out of him. But honestly, I never found Eggman charming and likable because I found that he was too one-dimensional. Like, if he was fleshed out more, then I would like him. And he's not quite, like, except in Sonic Adventure, where I just love his hammy performance. I don't know. Yeah, if you get hit by that thing, then you're cheated out of a hit. So that was really frustrating when I first played it. I don't think you can drown here. I think that Sonic spontaneously gets the ability to breathe underwater, just like in the Game Gear games with their boss fights, so you don't really have to worry about being underwater too long and drowning, which is good. But yeah, you gotta watch the boss in the background carefully in order to figure out when exactly it's going to attack. That's one of the main strategies with Sonic Rush boss fights, is that you gotta watch the boss in the background to make sure you'll know when it attacks. But one of the annoying things about the boss fights in the background is that they'll always be at the center of the screen, no matter how fast you go to left or right. So like you spin dash away from their attack, and you still get hit by it because it moved to left at the same rate as you. So that's really awkward and hard to get used to. I'm not really sure how you're supposed to earn a hit here. Like, I guess you have to be right up next to the fan, but I get the impression that running into the fan will hurt you as well. Like, I liked this boss a lot more than the first one when I first played the game, and I still do. It's just that this is another boss fight that takes too long. I mean, I'm on easy mode, and the boss is still taking over 2 minutes. No boss fight in a Sonic game should take 2 minutes. Like, I don't see this as fun. Like, it's just constantly waiting around for an opportunity to attack. It's just waiting around, not doing anything. And sometimes they're dodging attacks, but it doesn't feel more entertaining because they're still essentially just waiting around. Tails is at the bottom screen, which really raises more questions than it answers. Tails, if you're here, why aren't you helping me? Instead, just cheer you. He's cheering you on, but he's not joining in the battle. Which really goes to exemplify how, starting with this game, Tails becomes a lot more unlikely to help Sonic in the action. And I get that, because it's like, Sonic has so many more abilities than Tails now, starting with the boost. So it makes sense that Tails would feel inferior if he joined in on the action. So it's like, why bother? And like, he's better off sticking to what he's best at, which is engineering. So I understand if he thinks that he should just stay in the lab and focus on what he's best at rather than get himself hurt. Eggman's the kind of person who really wants attention, and he's all hammy and boastful and stuff. I don't think it'd be in character for him to put on a disguise for no reason. And Sonic has known him for years, so why is he assuming this? But still, in previous games, he was like going through the levels too, fighting the Eggman's boss fights too. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm barely even talking about the plot of this game because Sonic's story, I mean, aside from the whole space-time continuum tear thing, which is pretty unique for a Sonic game, is really as bare bones as it gets. I mean, this is pretty unique for a 2D Sonic game, but it's not really, there's not really that much to it. Literally all Sonic's story amounts to is Sonic and Tails go all over the place running into their friends who are portrayed as one-dimensional jokes, and they look for Blaze because they assume she's evil. Spoiler alert, she's not. See you in the next part.